Hello, this is our presentation on inclusion in dyslexia, and it's by Priya Welcome, me, Jody Griffin, and Bryce Culp.
Hi everyone, I'm Bryce. I'll be doing the formal definition I got from the International Dyslexia Association. Dyslexia is a specific learning disability that is neurobiological in origin. It is characterized by difficulties with accurate and/or fluent word recognition and by poor spelling and decoding abilities. These difficulties typically result from a deficit in the phonological component of language that is often unexpected in relation to other cognitive abilities and the provision of effective classroom instruction. Secondary consequences may include problems in reading comprehension and reduced reading experience that can impede growth of vocabulary and background knowledge.
Hi, my name is Priya Welcome. I know Jody already introduced us, but I thought that I'd reintroduce myself as these are put in clips. So for my first slide, I'm going to be talking about the related laws. So the IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, ensures eligible students with dyslexia receive free, appropriate public education through IEP programs. We already learned about IEP programs in the beginning of the class, so I don't really need to go over that too much. And then this classifies dyslexia under a category of specific learning disabilities, allowing students with dyslexia to learn more freely in the classroom. And then Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act 1973 provides custom accommodations for students with dyslexia, such as extended times on tests, audiobooks, note-taking, through a 504 plan. Many people have 504 plans. I have a couple of friends that have dyslexia, and they have 504 plans which allow them to go on their phones in class, check in with other teachers or counselors whenever needed, and then being able to just use that extra time for tests and using extra study tactics from the teacher. The ADA, American with Disabilities Act 1990, protects individuals with dyslexia from discrimination in school. It acts more of like a bullying law, so it allows students to have equal access to education and employment, and gets rid of that discrimination factor, which causes a lot of hatred in social life, State dyslexia laws these vary by state. I just thought that I'd throw this in there just because we all are from different areas. I'm from California, so my classmates are from different areas than me. So some states have specific laws mandating early screening, teacher training, and evidence-based interventions. As for California, dyslexia guidelines guide public schools in early identification and support. So that's specifically for my area.
Some physical, social, emotional needs that the kids with dyslexia face at school. Physical, they'll have difficulty decoding words, which could lead to slower reading. They'll have difficulty understanding the sounds in words. Social, they may feel excluded or behind because of reading difficulties, may avoid reading aloud to prevent embarrassment, and they may need a classroom culture of respect so that they don't feel different. The emotional needs, they may feel frustrated or anxious due to their reading challenges. They're at a higher risk of feeling stupid or incompetent because of ridicule from classmates. And celebrate their abilities so that they don't feel that they aren't enough or they are stupid.
When it comes to addressing the needs of those with dyslexia, there's several different ways that we as specifically educators can do that. I'll be going over 3 separate ways in the PowerPoint presentation. Firstly, we can teach lessons using a multisensory approach. This really can actually benefit not just those with dyslexia, but also several other students who don't have dyslexia and even don't have disabilities. Doing this type of teaching with these type of multisensory lessons can help those with dyslexia by accommodating them in different lessons throughout different subjects, throughout different grades. It emphasizes structure of languages across the different branches of linguistics. This is things that those students with dyslexia really struggle with. The different branches that I mentioned were phonemics, which is the sound, orthography, syntax, and morphology, which is the written language, and semantics, which is the relationship between different words. Doing a multisensory approach allows students to connect those language parts across different language parts, and that gives them a better understanding of it. So if a student may have issues with connecting let's say orthography, which is like the written language, but they don't have as much of a problem with the sound, then it would connect that, and so then they'd be able to better understand that. So using multisensory approaches, like it says in Johnson's work, it integrates different visual and auditory and tactical and kinesthetic learning elements, and this therefore activates different parts of the brain, and it benefits all students, though, like I mentioned at the beginning. So different students can benefit from this, but specifically it helps those with dyslexia since they have trouble with words on paper. Another way to address the needs of those with dyslexia is to work on the pronunciation of words with those students specifically. This could be done in small groups. This could be done even with like reading specialists in the hallway, pull them out of class. Hopefully it would be done in the classroom though. But basically what happens is students with dyslexia really struggle to spell, and that's because they are unable to hear like individual letters in words. So they'll like mash phonemes together and they can't hear the specific letters in words. They get them mixed up. So they actually end up mispronouncing these words. So if we get the pronunciation of those words more specific and show them how to pronounce words and where the pronunciation is coming from those different letters, then that'll actually help them in their misspellings. So by helping them work on their pronunciation of words, like in Johnson's work it says, this could actually help them spell better instead of getting mad or getting frustrated because they can't spell a word. It might be coming from a different source than another student who just has a trouble with misspelling. A final and third way to address the needs of those with dyslexia is to actually prioritize teaching morphological meanings. Doing this can help students because if they recognize a base word or a root word, like a root part in a word, then that can really help them understand the meaning of the word. This can help them read, it can help them in decoding when they're reading, and really just help them to understand the words better because they can see the words on the paper. That's not the issue that they're having. They're just mixing up like the sounds and like their brain is mixing it up in a way. So if we help them by teaching them the morphological meaning, which means basically the smallest meaning of a word, that if we teach them that, then they can hopefully kind of decode the word and figure it out, and it helps them break up the word because a lot of students with dyslexia will try to just read the whole word and they don't know how to break it up and sound it out. So that'll really help them with that skill also. There are many different ways that we can promote inclusion for those with dyslexia in the classroom. and I'll be discussing 3 different ways that we can do that today. So the first way that we can do that is to keep educators educated on dyslexia, kind of a tongue twister there, but basically if we are promoting inclusivity in the classroom, teachers should make sure that they're being educated on what dyslexia is, so then they're not missing early signs of dyslexia in some of their students, and so then they're not able to get the help that they need, because an inclusive classroom means that students are getting the help that they need and they're receiving the benefits of different laws, so then they can do the best, get the best education they can possibly get despite their disability. So this is really helpful, and according to Awada and Guria's Colin, their work, it talks about how dyslexia is such a hidden disability and sometimes it's not easily diagnosed, and because of that, students can sometimes think that they're not as smart, or they're exposed to just different discrimination. So by making sure that us as educators are educated and can help them, point out like, hey, this student might have dyslexia, that can really help them in the long run, and help just reduce discrimination in the classroom. Another way to promote inclusion, kind of similar to the first one, is to reduce stereotypes and debunk myths. Dyslexia is fairly common, not super common, but it's one of the more common disabilities that we see amongst students. And so because of that, it actually has a lot of stereotypes and myths that people believe without actually looking at the facts. So if we're able to debunk these myths and prove that they're not true, then that can really help from holding back those with dyslexia, and it can really help make a more inclusive classroom. So some common myths that I listed were that people with dyslexia see words differently, people with dyslexia can't read at all, people with dyslexia are lazy, or people with dyslexia will never be successful at all, and finally, people with dyslexia write badly. These are all myths and they're debunked and science doesn't back them up. So if we are able to spread awareness that these aren't true at all, then we can just create a more inclusive classroom for those with dyslexia. A final way to promote inclusion in the classroom would be creating an inclusive and understanding classroom environment. So making sure that we are just informing our other students in the classroom that it's okay to be different, it's okay to not look like everybody else, it's okay to not have the same background as everybody else, it's okay to have a different skin color, all these different things will just create a very diverse classroom environment. And so as we work towards a more diverse and understanding classroom environment, the students themselves will actually be more likely to accept others because they're different, and they won't necessarily push them away. So this can really help, because if a student has dyslexia and doesn't feel welcome, if the students aren't used to people being different and think that everybody should be the same and act the same and come from the same environment, they may push away that student with dyslexia, and that's not going to promote inclusion in the classroom. So if we're able to teach our students that, then they can be accepted by their other peers, which is a huge win and really just promotes inclusion. And I think that it's just as important for the students to be promoting inclusion in the classroom as the teachers are also. So just everybody is very inclusive and very welcoming.
Okay, now for community resources. Again, so since we are from all different areas, I focused on my community resources, and then I gave a little example of just state and national wide. So my community is called Mariposa County, really small town right outside of Yosemite National Park, and one of the resources that we have is our county library. They allow one-on-one adult tutoring in reading, writing, and many more skills, which are provided free to our community members. And then this online tutoring is also available for students that are not wanting to go in person or that are uncomfortable going in person. And this is free as well, and it's tutoring via BrainFuse. So it's a little online version of their tutoring program. And then we also have our Mariposa Family Resource Center, which supports young children 0 to 5 years old specifically with special needs. And this allows for students not only with dyslexia but other disabilities as well to have more parental support, and then also awareness in play groups. They get to know other children with similar disabilities as them, and it really prepares them for schooling and going into that environment in the classroom. And then Mariposa County Behavioral Health and Disability Screening provides mental health and learning disorder screenings, group therapy, counseling services, which are available locally. The behavioral health disability screening also provides one-on-one appointments with students that are seeking it. It's a little bit more in depth that way, but it's not required. Students can just go there if they're seeking help or curiosity about their disabilities in general. And then for state and national dyslexia support organizations, these access to structure, literacy techniques, and audiobooks through Learning Alley and advocacy resources via Decoding Dyslexia. So this one's a little bit more broad. Like I said, I really focused on Mariposa County, which is my county. So these can vary between between anybody's communities, and national and state also has very many resources and that allow you to focus in your community. Now for strategy resources. So this one was a little bit more difficult for me to navigate, but I tried my best to come up with a few different philosophies and structures, which I saw on Google. So Orton-Gillingham approach is a structured, multi-sensory and photonics-based method, which is proven to be effective for teaching reading, spelling with dyslexia students. And then this approach trains educators rather than the students themselves. It trains educators to tailor instruction to individual learning needs. So it allows for a more personable interaction between teachers and students, allowing the student to feel a little bit more comfortable in the classroom. The Wilson reading system is a comprehensive structured literacy. Okay, so the Wilson reading system is a comprehensive structured literacy curriculum based on the Orton-Gillingham principles, which I just talked about, designed for students in grades 2nd to 12th and adults with significant reading struggles. It allows them to be supported with their spelling and reading tactics, and then also gives a little bit more of that personable interaction between teachers and students. International Dyslexia Association offers research-based strategies, educator training, and publications such as Dyslexia fact sheets and IDA structured literacy guidelines. These support families and schools with lesson plans and evidence-based practices. So all three of these strategy resources really work together in order to allow students with dyslexia to thrive in the classroom.
The video I chose goes over what dyslexia is, it goes over the challenges that those students might face in class, and it goes over teaching strategies for teachers to use for those students. So I thought it was a good video that would fit with our presentation. Comprehension questions I came up with are: is dyslexia related to intelligence in students? And explain your answer. How can a student with dyslexia be affected emotionally in the classroom? And what teaching strategies can be used to support students with dyslexia in the classroom?
And then lastly, this is our reference page. Again, I'd like to thank you guys for going through all of this. It was really fun to do a group project. This was my first group project. So thank you to my group, and then also to this course. I've learned so much, and I believe that this course will help me so much in my future of becoming an educator. For this reference page, it's very simple. it is just through ABC order, and we have used quite a bit of resources as many of our slides include mini facts. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you.